If you want to animate lettering that has a texture, I'll show you how to do that now with this Explore Colorado example. If you already have a Photoshop file with your lettering textured, you can skip this video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I went from my design in Illustrator to a textured Photoshop file, and then in the next video, we'll learn how to animate it. I created my design in Illustrator, so I'm going to show you how I can get it into Photoshop. If you already have your design in Photoshop, but it's just not textured yet, then just hold tight for a few seconds. So I've separated out all the pieces that I want to animate into their own layers. To get from Illustrator to Photoshop, the first thing we need to do is go to File, Export, Export As, and then you're going to want to make sure you change the file format to a PSD file, and then just hit Export. You can change your resolution to 72 pixels if you want to, and make sure that you have right layers checked, and then just hit OK. Once you've exported your PSD file, then just double click it to open it in Photoshop. The first thing I want to do is group all of my layers. If your layers aren't separated out and they're already all together, then you can skip this step. So I'm just going to select from my tree to my E, so all of the design layers, but not the background. Right click and go up to Group from Layers. And I'm just going to name this Lettering. An easy way to get a texture is just to take a picture on your phone of something that has texture to it. So I've taken this picture of my sidewalk, and I'm just going to drag it into Photoshop. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, in my Layers panel, just double click to unlock the layer. And we need to convert this to a black and white layer that we can subtract the black pixels from our design, the lettering design. So I'm going to first go up to Image, Mode, and then Grayscale, and just hit discard. But we actually don't want any grays in our picture, we just want blacks and whites. So I'm going to go up to Image, Adjustments, Levels, or Command L, and then I'm just going to drag these level sliders until I get a mostly black and white image. And remember that the black parts are what you're going to be cutting out of your design. Alright, that looks pretty good to me, so I'm just going to hit OK. Next, hit Command A to select all, Command C to copy, then you're going to hit Delete to delete everything, hit Q to enter Quick Mask mode, and if you go to your channels, you can see that there's a quick mask there. Then hit Command V to paste, and it looks pinkish. That's okay. So what we've done is just pasted the black areas into this quick mask. And then hit Q again to exit quick mask mode, and make sure that you have everything selected and it kind of looks like it's moving like mine, and go to Select, Inverse. Then go up to Edit, Fill, and then just add a black fill. So make sure you're selected black here and hit OK. Then you can hit Command D to deselect. So now what we've done is deleted all the white areas in the image, and we just have these black pixels. Let's add this texture to our lettering. So hit Command A to select everything, Command C to copy, and then go over to your lettering file and hit Command V to paste. Then I'm going to click on my layer and hit Command T because my texture is way bigger than my lettering piece. So I'm just going to shrink this down and try to position it in a way that the texture is going to look good on my letters. And then just hit enter when you're done. The next thing you want to do is move your texture layer and your lettering into the same group. First I'm just going to name this texture. And then selecting both of these, I'm going to right click and hit Group from Layers. And I'll name this Textured Lettering. Then I'm going to toggle down into my group, double click on the texture, and then in Advanced Blending, right here, I'm going to set the fill opacity to 0 and the knockout to shallow, and then just hit OK. Now you can see that it's added the texture to my lettering. If you want to add a solid edge to the edge of your letters like I did in my final design, I'll show you how to do that now. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into my textured lettering group, and then I'm going to duplicate this lettering group, or you might have it as just one layer. So right click, go to duplicate, and then I'm just going to name this lettering edge, and I'm going to drag it out above this group so that it's not within the group. Now I'm going to double click on the lettering edge that I just created, and then under advanced blending I'm going to drag the fill opacity to 0. Then I'm going to go into inner glow. You can change the amount of noise if you want to. I'm going to leave mine at 15. Make sure that your technique is set to softer and that your source is set to the edge. And you can see a little preview of what it's going to look like here, or actually on your image as well, if you have the preview button checked. And so if you wanted, you could actually have it in the center if you like that look better. I'm going to keep mine at edge, and then you can just adjust the choke to make your solid line thicker, and you can adjust the size to make it a bigger or smaller fade. So I'm going to leave mine with these settings and hit OK. Now if you look closely, you'll notice that on the Explore we can see a lot more of the rough texture within the layers. But since our Colorado and our sun rays are thinner strokes than the Explore layers, we can't really see that much texture at all. So I want to adjust the texture for just these layers. So what I'm going to do is just duplicate this lettering edge group. So I'll duplicate group, and I'm going to make this lettering edge thin for thin stroke. And then my other one, my original, I'm going to make lettering edge thick. Then I'm going to toggle down, and let's just hide everything but the lettering edge thick layer in the background. And then I'm just going to delete everything that's not a thick letter. So I'm going to delete the Colorado, so the CO, all of these. And I'm going to delete the rays. Then I'll close that up, hide it, and show my lettering edge thin, toggle down, and I'm going to delete all of the thick layers here. So EX, and the trees and the sun. And I'll toggle this back up and show all my layers again. Then I'm going to go into the inner glow of the lettering edge thin. So just double click that and it'll bring back up this box. And then you can just adjust the choke and the size so that it works better for your thinner stroked letters. So maybe something like that. And then just hit OK. At this point, make sure that you've saved your file. And then it's actually a good idea to make a duplicate at this point in case you want to go back and edit any of the texture or the edges that we've just created, because what we're going to do next is going to make it uneditable. So I'm just going to go and just duplicate this PSD. I just saved it, so I'm just going to hit Command D and then name this editable. And then I'm still working in my same Explore Colorado PSD. What I'm going to do is select all the design layers, so everything but the background, and then right click and hit Merge Layers. So now what I have is all of my design on one layer. And it's important to kind of bake in your texture like this, because if you were to import it into After Effects, how we just had it with the 3 different layers, After Effects wouldn't recognize that inner glow. So this is why we need to do this step. I'm just going to rename this layer and save my file. And next we're going to go and animate this in After Effects.